Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Quants Worth Following. Today we have our special guest, Giuseppe Russo. He's a Milan-based data scientist and entrepreneur. He has honed his AI expertise at Bending Spoons before mastering quantitative trading at SocGen's proprietary desk in Paris. In 2020, he co-founded EXVAi Research, which is a boutique firm developing high-sharp AI-driven strategies for high net worth individuals, family offices, and sophisticated capital allocators. We're super excited to have you, Giuseppe. It would be really great to introduce yourself in your own words as well.
First, thanks for having me, Christina. So my name is Giuseppe, and as you can imagine, I'm Italian from Milan, which is not as beautiful or where food is not as good as in Rome, but well, that's life. But actually, I've spent most of the last 15 years abroad because I've lived in Chicago, Paris, Madrid, and Barcelona. And professionally speaking, I'm a data scientist, and I'm also the co-founder of EXVAi Research, as you said before, that I co-founded in 2020 with Stefano Dalla Palma and Arnaud Boucher, both former colleagues from SocGen. And what we do is we are AI specialists developing trading strategies that then we sell to high net worth individuals, family offices, and small capital allocators.
Amazing. Thank you for that introduction. I'm curious, how did you get into quant trading?
It was a, let's say, long journey because I didn't know at the time, but I committed the cardinal sin because I didn't study engineer or physics, mathematics, or computer science. So I went straight for statistics because I was passionate about math when I was a kid, but I found statistics to be a bit more pragmatic and closer to real world problems. So I went for that with a specialization in insurance. And then I developed an interest in AI and coding, but it was a bit late. So I had to learn all this either through Code Academy courses, Coursera courses, Udacity courses, or by reading academic research papers. And then I had a second, I would say, issue to break into quant, which was the fact that as an Italian, actually, the quant industry is not very, I would say, popular in Italy, because you can find huge quant funds in UK, France, US, but not Italy. So first I started working at Bending Spoons. Back in time, it was a garage startup, let's say, but they're doing pretty well because it's now a unicorn. And then I finally managed to break into a quant role at Societe Generale in Paris, in the prop department, where I was a data scientist there. And after I left with two former colleagues, I set up my own company, which is named EXVAi Research. And
Amazing.
here we are.
Here we are. I'm curious now, since you've lived in both Europe and in the US, what is the quant industry like in places like Italy and France? Just, yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because the answer is very much, I would say, is not economic driven, but I would say it's pretty much cultural. So in Italy, the elite sends their kids to what we call Liceo Classico, which is the high school focusing on humanities. And so the majority of those end up becoming a lawyer. By the way, we have too many lawyers in Italy. While in France, it's the opposite. So maybe it's a bit what Descartes left to the country, but actually what gives status is to become an engineer. So you have the top school like Centrale, Polytechnique, and everyone wants to get there. So everyone works super hard to get very good at maths. And fast forward some years, everyone is doing engineer. And then you also have a bunch of extremely good and recognized master's degrees, like the one at Paris 6, which is named El Karoui, and then there is another one, L'Aurélie. And both of them, every year, they send approximately 50, 100 quants all over the world. Actually, I've heard some stories of international banks fighting back in time in the 80s, come to Paris to get those. In France, it's very strong, the Quant, it's a tradition. In Italy, not much.
Thank you for sharing. You know, we've interviewed a lot of people who are based in the US, and they always have talked about how difficult it is of an environment to find a job these days, to break into not just quant, really into get any job these days. And I'm curious right now in Europe, what is that like? Do you feel like is it easy to, get a job in Europe these days?
Well, I think, they should come to Europe to get a moral boost because no, I've heard many, likely it has been a while, haven't looked for a job. But yeah, I don't think the situation here is really positive, specifically for quants. We're left with London, which is a great center. Also Paris, but generally there is this whole immigration of French educated quants learning the basic in Paris and then leaving to London. But yeah, I sometimes I go to New York for conferences, and what I see is that the market is much more dynamic than.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that. Were there any surprises when you first became a quant researcher at SocGen?
I expected the internal processes or procedures to be much more rigid, but I was very positively surprised by the freedom that they gave me since the beginning. So the main difference between working in a prop shop as a quant or data scientist versus a startup is that I would say startup cannot survive without software engineers and product managers. So I would say that the most important revenue generating activity is producing code. So first you create, example, mobile app and you make it nice, hopefully. And once the product is selling, then you can hire a data scientist who's gonna use some ML model to optimize revenues, reduce costs and stuff. But on the other side, in a prop shop, the revenue generating person is the quant or the trader or the quant trader. So really the focus is on achieving a high quality research because that's what counts the most.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. What made you decide to leave such a large, prestigious company and start EXVAi Research?
Well, at a certain point, I told myself, well, I have the right age to try something. I have decent amount of money, not huge money to invest. So initially, me and Stefano, who was my intern back in time, and then also Arnaud, who was the head of the whole department, then joined, also investing in the company. And we tried that. And it was super hard, especially in the beginning, because as a quant, we thought that being good technically or still having something that works trading wise was enough, but actually not at all, because we started the average client, a prop shop or a small quant shop as is rich people. Now, back in time, I was 30 years old. I didn't know many rich people that could become eventually my clients. Also, you need to take care about legal. I'm not a lawyer. Taxes. The most I did tax-wise was income tax. Problem is that generally it's you also need to deal with capital gains at a certain point, especially in this business. So it was a whole, every day was a surprise that someone needed to fix. But eventually it worked well.
Amazing. Was it an easy or difficult decision for you?
No, it was not easy, but I told myself that the expected value of that was still positive. You try that. If it works, it can work very well. If it doesn't, well, I will find a job.
Yep, exactly. I'm curious, related to that, what are some of the unique challenges of doing a startup versus working at a very large company?
I think the most important when it comes to do your startup is, well, there are two elements. The first one is that any problem that pop-ups, it's yours. Because if you work in a large corporation and you need, for example, clean data, someone is supposed to take care of that because someone is paid to bring you clean data so you can train your model. While in a startup, you need to take care of that. You need to take care of, again, the legal, the marketing, even accounting. Like I didn't know how to set up a company. It's not so difficult, but still you need to scrap all the information. And the second, I think it's more psychological because also there is a cultural element. Now, I've never lived in San Francisco, but it seems so from the outside that as soon as you go there and you say that you're setting up your own startup, everyone is cheering you, like you are a brave hero trying to move the economy forward. There are some countries where this is not seen as positively. So when you say that you are creating your own startup, which was the case for me back in time, people replied back saying, okay, so you're looking for a job and you're not finding any. It's fine. I say, no, I'm really. I say, no, okay, it's fine. We will find one. So you get an awful amount of no's for a very long time, and I was not used to that.
Wow, thank you for sharing. I think you nailed two different points. One, the amount of unexpected work in areas like legal and accounting and the amount of time it takes to do all of that work. It's doable, but it takes a lot more time than you expect. Is definitely not to be underestimated. And the second great lesson there is the psychological effect of it, right? Whether that's the words of all the people around you, the effect that could have on any founder, really, is also not to be underestimated as well. Those are really, really great and real challenges that I'm sure a lot of other founders can relate to.
I think so.
Yeah. So curious now at EXVAi Research. So what kind of research are you focused on these days?
Yeah. So the way we tackle research is we try to approach finance and trading in general as if it were a simple data science problem. So when it comes to data science, generally the data scientist has one target variable to forecast, to predict. And on the other side, there are some data that he can use and create features out of that and then optimize the model. So the way we tackle this is we start from raw data, generally financial data, can be price, volume, fundamental data. And then out of those, and that's one big topic, we do feature engineering. So from those, we generate hundreds of features that we hope being informative in order to predict something, which in its simplest form is the future returns or the future direction of the stock we're looking at. We increase the dimensionality of the feature space. And then, so let's imagine we created a moving average 5 days, 10 days, 15 days. Then there is another step, which is another big topic, and we try to improve every couple of months. And it's where we focus on statistical techniques that tries out of a big sample of indicators to find the ones that are most informative. So instead of using moving average 5 days and inflation expectation 3 months because we have been told that it works, we put all this into a statistical technique that give us an answer in a probabilistic way. And then once we have that, so we're halfway the process, we have machine learning models that takes all these elements and try to use those and the information that is contained there to finally predict something in the future.
I'd be curious, who are your clients and how do you find them?
Mainly family offices, club deals, small capital allocators. So the perfect client for us is a good mix between sophisticated enough to understand what we're doing, but at the same time, not too sophisticated to be able to reverse engineer what we do. How do we find them? Well, actually, it's networking helps, conferences help. Also, LinkedIn works, we discovered.
Absolutely. It's a modern day post-COVID environment. Surprisingly, LinkedIn is very effective. Cool. And my last question for you is, what advice would you give to the next generation of quants?
I would give three. First one is very simple. If you have the opportunity to go to a top school to study, I would say engineering, physics, mathematics, go for it because that opens a lot of doors on top of teaching you a lot of useful things. The most important thing is it opens a lot of doors. Second, to me, it's important to understand and being pretty sincere with yourself on what's your hedge or what's your preference, intellectual preference. For example, if you're a great mathematician and you have a very theoretical way of approaching things, maybe it's better to focus on the derivatives pricing, which is much more mathematical. While, for example, if you're a bit more pragmatic, maybe you like more physics, then quant trading would be better because it's much more statistically driven. And then the last one was something I found interesting in the last times. Twitter, I think, might be a great hiring tool because by posting interesting material there, you can really get noticed by big names. That's what I found.
Thank
So
you for
those.
such wisdom. This is amazing. Awesome. Yeah, well, that's pretty much it. So thanks everyone for everything. And thank you, Giuseppe, for all of your amazing pieces of advice and sharing your journey with us here today. We really appreciate it. We're excited to hear more progress for EXVAi Research and definitely, keep in touch with everyone. So take care and enjoy the rest of your day.